It's gorgeous out. Let's pop some ducks.
This is the Upduck Podcast, a blend of upland and waterfowl hunting. Tune in as your hosts, Tyler Beaton, Jeff Ludicky, Matt Jeske, chat about training dogs and share their bird hunting stories, tactics, and strategies.
It is.
Tyler?
What's up, gentlemen? Jeff, Matt, what's happening, fellas?
We're hanging in there.
Yep.
Hanging in there. The allergies have been kind of kicking my ass these last few days, but
Yep. Exactly.
yeah. Yeah. My whole truck is just full of pollen, like front to back. It's just it's bad. It's been dragging me down a little bit, but we're hanging in there.
Okay. All right. Everybody doing that Flonase? Washing up those nasal cavities? Yeah.
Yep. I get on the Flonase train. I can't do the Claritin and the Zyrtec stuff though. After, like, if I take that for like a week straight, I'm just like a zombie. Whatever, it just completely drains me. But the Flonase, that works pretty good.
All right. Okay. I'm on my prescriptions because I'm very allergic to grass pollen, as it turns out. So I learned that last year. Yep. So I got like the Singulair, the Flonase, some eye drops, you name it. When I stand outside right now, though, and I'm like underneath the tree, I like feel the pollen falling from the tree into my eyes. It's just a glorious, glorious feeling.
It's terrible this time of year, but we'll get through it. We'll be fall.
We will. Gentlemen, how are your dogs? We have not talked about our dogs in a while. How are your dogs doing? I need a dog check here.
Dog's fine. Not getting nearly as much exercise as she should, but
I was going to say,
'tis the season for that, I suppose.
I said we trained twice last week, so that was kind of a miracle. So yeah,
that's good.
Yeah.
And all of your training comrades were up in Wisconsin on this past weekend, Matt. So
they were. Yep.
Got to pretend to put in some work hours for you for your club. So here you go.
Yeah. Yep.
Perfect. Briefly, Tyler, before we introduce the guest here, how was the Grand?
The Grand was eye-opening. It was
eye-opening. Okay.
Yes.
Do you think good, bad? Think something Matt could run?
Not right now. No. Okay. 3 years ago, we could compete, but it's a different level of the way it's set up, a different level of the way it's judged. It's just until you see it, it's really hard to fathom. You can hear about it, but you just got to see it, and you go, wow. You see these dogs who are all really, 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 really good, and you see them going out on go birds, the first bird, and you're like, whoa. You see them getting chewed up by a blind. You're like, okay, all right. This is the Super Bowl. They call it the Super Bowl for a reason. So yeah. It was interesting. I had to meet some really cool people though, like in the training world, some big time trainers. And Matt, Pat Burns, you've seen his stuff. Yeah, he was there.
I watched a lot of his stuff.
Yeah.
I saw that. I saw he was there.
Yeah. Good stuff.
There's some interesting articles. We can get into it later about the like pass percentages per flights and things like that, and how that impacts your Grand performance. So there's a lot of things floating around on the Facebook world that I've seen that I want to read about later. But
yes, we could talk a lot about that. I went and watched one of those series, one of the water ones that was that was a bloodbath. It was the blind was insane. Apparently, I mean, I watched 3 dogs run it, and I think each handler blew the whistle like 20 times.
Yeah.
It was crazy. So not what you'd expect. Okay. All right. Good. Should we bring in our guest, gentlemen?
Let's do it.
Enough with the small
waiting
talk here.
Patiently.
So he's waiting very patiently. So we're going to bring him in. But the background here is, if you are on Instagram and you've seen any amazing pictures of ducks, you've probably seen Phil Kahnke's work. So, I refer to you, Phil, as like the godfather of waterfowl photography, because you're the first person that I really saw who the algorithm pushed to me that was doing waterfowl photography. So, Phil, welcome to the Upduck Podcast.
Welcome, guys. Thanks for having me. And I would have to say I was one of the first of the Instagram generation. Yeah. There were definitely guys before me that did amazing work as well too. So.
Yes,
it wasn't my thing to start. I got to use some inspiration from a few different folks.
Sure. I should clarify that you're the godfather of Instagram waterfowl photography.
Yeah. I just don't want to take any credit from them.
No, absolutely. So, all right. So let's just start here. So Phil, if there is someone who's new to waterfowl hunting, who's doesn't go on social media very much, why don't you just give a background, give a brief background on yourself, where you're located, what you do, how long you've been hunting, how long you've been taking pictures, all that good stuff.
All right. So I'm in my late 40s now, and I grew up in southern Minnesota, which is a pretty waterfowl rich area, hunting rich area, history type rich area. It wasn't too far from Rochester, Minnesota. Mississippi River's right there. A couple of big lakes just west of where I grew up that were pretty well known for all sorts of waterfowl hunting. And I think I probably started, when I was in that 7 to 8, 9 year range. I don't know exactly. I'd have to ask my dad, but I was young, and like from the minute that I did it, that we walked out in the dark and had sandwiches and waiting, and the whole process. I mean, I was absolutely hooked on everything to do with duck hunting. That first trip, the next year, and that next spring, I was out at the local lakes, ride my bike down to a couple of lakes in town, sit on the shoreline and watch ducks and listen to ducks. And I was just enthralled with everything that went on with that. So, I mean, since it's been, it's almost 40 years now that I've been interested in duck hunting. I based my sports activities in high school off of being able to hunt. I probably shouldn't tell my dad this, but I kind of based where I went to college on being able to hunt where I went, and my class schedules. All of my jobs have been very conducive, except for a couple of years, to being able to hunt a lot during that time. And that's why I'm here in South Dakota now. I worked for Cabela's in Minnesota. I had the opportunity to move out to the Mitchell store for a promotion, and I knew what South Dakota was like, being a close neighbor, and I just didn't know exactly this area. So I called the guy that knew that worked here, and he said, "Yeah, you'll want to move here." So, like 3 days later, I had the trailer packed, and I was on my way here. And I've been in South Dakota now since 2007, I think. And I don't live in a great part of South Dakota for waterfowl hunting, but it's better than most places are going to be, anyways. But it gives me the freedom to roam around the state and hunt wherever I want. So currently, the last 6 years now, 7 years, I've worked for Band and Avery. I work in marketing related tasks, doing a variety of things depending on the day. So that's kind of given me, of course, again, flexibility and almost a requirement to hunt, just since my photos are used a lot for that. And experience and using products and all that kind of stuff helps as well. So that's kind of the quick one too.
Now, you mentioned that your dad took you out waterfowling when you were 8 or 9 years old. Did he hunt any other type of game animals? Did you grow up hunting different types of game animals, or was it primarily just waterfowl?
So it was just waterfowl. We pheasant hunted a bit, and I did like that. I mean, actually, we probably pheasant hunted way more than we duck hunted. A lot of that was just because he'd get off work and we'd go do the old road hunting thing and drive around and find pheasants and hop out and chase them and or try to spot them. And I mean, I'm still have a pretty eagle eye for a little white ring sitting 50 yards back in a cornfield. Even though I've probably shot more pheasants in Minnesota than I ever will in South Dakota. I don't really hunt them here. I mean, it's pretty rare that I devote a day to it, but that was it. We never did anything else. I never deer hunted. I never did any of that. I fished a bunch when I was little. We had a couple lakes close by that I bass fished on a lot when I was little, but no deer, no other big game. I've picked some of that stuff up in the past years here on my own, but really that was all kind of my own doing and nothing that my dad ever did.
I tell you, there's probably a lot of listeners that are cringed when you said you live in South Dakota and you don't pheasant hunt.
Yeah, I mean, crazy. It's hard to say I don't at all. 'Cause, I do probably once or twice a year. Part of it now, my dog. So this one, I got her in 2000. I think 2021 was her first year, maybe 2020. 2021 would be her first season. And she would have been like 10 months old. And we'd been duck hunting a few times, and pheasant opener came around, and a buddy of mine owns a few fields, and he's a farmer. I went out to one by myself, and we were going through some flares grass, and this was like her first time hunting, or maybe second, and she was surprisingly very good pheasant hunter for zero pheasant training at all. She did really well. I'm like, this is awesome. And then she caught a barbed wire fence and ripped her whole front shin open, big gash, had a big flap of skin hanging right in the middle of duck season. I'm like, oh shit. So she was out for a couple of weeks with that. And I just kind of said, I don't really want to risk that again. So I don't pheasant hunt her much. I'll take her out a few times, but at pretty easy spots. And for me, having her to pheasant hunt is more important than me chasing a few pheasants.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Now, how did you start getting into photography? Like, where did that, I know we're not going to kind of focus on photography, but where did that all kind of like come into your life, and how did that get you to where you're at now?
It was a long time ago. It's probably when I was 12 or 13 or something like that. My dad was friends with a guy that was like the photographer in town, and we had a ski boat, and I'd go water skiing in the summer, and this photographer guy was a water skier, and I don't know if my dad just talked to him about this or what, but it was kind of right when like auto exposure was coming in to be a thing on cameras, in probably the early 90s, late 80s, something like that. Canon came out with a Canon AE1. So it was more feasible that a person who didn't necessarily have a lot of training could take decent photos. So he got me this camera, a little lens, and I learned how to shoot photos, and I was not good, of course. And this was in the film era. So like you didn't, I was 12 and I didn't have a ton of money to spend on it. And of course my dad would buy film for me, but you're not learning at a rate that you would now with digital. It's not an instant learning curve. So I did that. I took a few cool photos of different things, of friends and flowers and landscapes and whatnot. And then I kind of put the camera away for a few years. And then again, kind of right when, but I kind of kept all that stuff in the background. I knew the understandings of the technical side of what needed to happen to make good photos. I just didn't take a lot because I was not very good. Well, then once digital started coming out, I'm thinking, there could be some applications for hunting for this. And this was probably the early 2000s. Yeah, like, I don't know, 2001, 2, somewhere there. Canon came out with like their first kind of consumer level digital camera that was good. It was terrible compared to something you could get now, but it was good for back then. And so I saved up a bunch of money and picked one up and started to learn on that. And that was when I was in Minnesota yet, and I didn't have a lot of opportunities for stuff. And it's hard to mix hunting and photography, and I didn't get to hunt as much back in those days as I do now. So I didn't do a lot of like the hunting related stuff. And I would do a little tiny bit of duck stuff, but I didn't have the lenses and the other gear that was required. So it was still kind of mediocre. I decided to make it pretty serious, probably, I don't know, 16, 17 years old. Kind of when I moved out here, I started buying better equipment little by little as I could. And that's when I kind of decided like to take it serious. And I remember the day that I was like, okay, if I'm going to do this, I've got to do it right. I got to get my ass out of my truck and I need to go into the marsh and take these photos. And I was afraid of looking like having someone seeing me, and like, I don't know why I was worried about that, but I was, feeling funny having someone seeing me taking photos. And I did that. And I remember the first photo I took that I was like, this is like the stuff that I see on magazine covers. And like, okay, I can do this. And that was what kind of really flipped that switch. And for a long time, I was just a duck guy. Like, I would take photos in the spring of ducks, and I would not touch my camera again until the next spring, and the same thing. And then these last 7, 8, 9, 10 years, I've tried to focus on like more lifestyle and people and dog type stuff as well. So it's been a little bit of a progression. That's a quick version of it.
How do you, so when you're in the blind, how do you balance taking pictures, right? Because you know, for some for work, and also calling, shooting, running your dog, all that stuff. That's a lot going on.
It is. I don't really balance it very well. The hunting I mean, there's no doubt that the hunting definitely takes the precedence during actual duck hunt. And on a lot of hunts, I tend to be the guy that's kind of running the show, depending on who I'm with, which group of hunter, like which friends I'm with. But usually it's my boat and whatnot. But I'm getting out where most of these guys can handle stuff too. So I've told myself that this is the year I need to just put my stupid gun aside a little bit and just really devote to getting a lot of cool pictures of the people and all the other stuff. I mean, I feel like I have a fair amount of those, but I feel like I also don't hardly ever take those photos. So if I had my camera in my hand rather than my gun, a lot of times the amount of just neat stuff I would get would be amplified by 2, 3, 4, or 5 times. Who knows? So it's hard. Like I get asked that question a lot on Instagram. You know, how do you? I'm like, I don't for the most part take those pictures when I'm hunting. I'm a hunter at heart, and a photographer comes second for sure. There's something about just pulling that trigger that, you know, a lot of people say as you get older, you don't want to shoot as much. And I don't have like the desire to kill something as much, but there's still something very satisfying about when you've done it all perfect and the flock of mallards is hovering and you see 2 or 3 flapping on the water that you shot. And there's just something satisfying about it that a picture isn't quite the same. So that's my hunting versus photography rivalry. I don't know if it'll ever get better. I'm going to work on it this year, though. I'm going to work on it this year, which is what I said the last 5 years. So we'll see what happens. I did buy one lens specifically, so I don't have to fight the battle of switching lenses, and it should work for everything I'd want to do when I'm in the blind. So that's maybe my impetus to get me to try it a little bit harder this year.
Okay. Well, has your dog changed the way that you approach it at all? Has that, you know, watching the dog and trying to take pictures of your dog, is that more of an influence, or are you still just a hunter?
It's changed the way I've hunted in general, because I did not. So I was telling Jeff, I had dogs when I was little, but those were kind of more my dad's dogs. And those dogs, this was in the day of when, you know, a dog lived in the kennel out back. He took them out to train them. They weren't the family pet. And that kind of like always turned me off, because they were just crazy and wild, and I didn't have that connection that like I thought like you would want to have. And then I started seeing people who had dogs in their houses, and they were friendly and calm, and they were still amazing hunters. I was like, you know, I'm gonna try this. And I was at a point where I wasn't living alone. So, and I wasn't, when I was at Cabela's, that's where I worked for a long time. Well, I said that. I was working, you know, as in management. I was working, you know, 6:30 a.m. and I get home at 6:30, 7 o'clock at night. And that just wasn't really fair to a dog. But once I was living with someone, that changed, and I could have, you know, a girlfriend could take care of the dog if I wasn't around. So I got a dog when I was 30, and that definitely changed the way I hunted and looked at hunting. I had kind of gotten spoiled. I had become just a mallard purist for a couple of years, and I was lucky that those few years we had a lot, and there wasn't a lot of people hunting where I was, and it was really good, and I was able to get away with that. Then I moved kind of towards Easter a little bit, and it was not in as great of an area. And I got this dog, and I'm like, you know, I just want to go hunt and get her on birds. And I will now, if I can find a spot full of blue-winged teal, I'll go hunt it. Obviously, if I can find, anything else, I'm going to do that. But I will still just go hunt whatever I can and just shoot whatever, just to get the dog get retrieved, because she, as you guys know, they enjoy it. They don't know the difference. They just want to go pick up a bird. So without a doubt, having a dog changed the way that I hunt in general. And I did not really, my first dog, I did not really take a lot of photos. I mean, I have a fair amount, but not until her last half of her hunting career did I really start to get a lot of her. And which sucks, because her first couple of years she was a firecracker. Then she had a I can't think of what you call it, but she kind of she had to take a pill to keep her weight down. Her thyroid was slowed down, so she didn't have quite the energy. She'd still swim 2 miles to go get a duck if she had to, but she didn't have that running and splashing and all the drama, that a photo would great to have in a photo. But I have a ton of photos of her just doing her thing. And then this dog is more of a firecracker, and she's been very good for photos, except for her back legs are kind of jacked up, but we can get into that later.
Now, from your pictures, I see you have a black lab, right? Sounds like it's a female. Was your first dog a black lab as well?
Yep, black female.
Nice.
My last one was like a 95-pound big tank of a dog, and she floated very well. which was a good thing. We hunted more big water back then, and a lot of big retrieves, and it's always cold here, and that dog was something else. She was never gonna, neither of my dogs are ever gonna, they would be the first dog eliminated in any kind of a hunt test or anything like that. But that dog would swim. There'd be 4 of us hunting. We'd have, a limit of mallards and a random bluebill that was wounded and a couple of geese that were wounded. And that dog could swim till almost out of sight till she was just a black speck, and she'd come back and be ready to get the next one. And it was pretty wild to watch her, because she was just such a good swimmer, and she was so confident that she would just go. And, the first few years with her, I was like, I didn't know what to expect a dog could do. And I was always nervous with this other one, because she's skinnier and she's similar to her swimming, but this other one could just float and could just swim. Made it seem like it was nothing. We'd go pick her up sometimes, a couple 100 yards out after she's coming back with a goose. And she's like, well, I don't need to get in the boat. She just wanted to keep swimming back toward shore. So like, why are you out here? Let me go.
That's awesome. And that was going to be my next question, was if you got into the hunt test game at all. I know we talked about that at the beginning, but it doesn't sound like it.
So no, I have a very different approach to my dog and into training than probably what a lot of folks do. I wouldn't call her a meat dog. She's like a friend, family dog. I mean, she's sitting here right next to me right now. But the way I train is a little different. And it's nothing that I've created on my own. It's just, I don't know if you guys know who Rick Stosky is out of Minnesota, Fine Line Retrievers.
I feel like I've heard the name, but I'm not overly familiar with him.
Yeah, he trained Sean Stahl's dog Carl, and a bunch of other dogs like that. He's fairly well known in that field trial game. But he's a good friend of mine, and he's got a video series out, and I watched the first 2 of his videos, and I used parts of that. And for me, what I've focused on is, obviously the basics, the come here, sit, stay, heel, all that kind of stuff. And then really all I do after that is work on, just taking a line, and then I would do the baseball drills for the back over here type stuff with a whistle. And other than that, I really don't do any training. Once they have that down, then I just take them, and this is what I've done with both these dogs, is start taking them to local sloughs when they're young, and once they have that down, and even before they have that, I still take them to these places and get them in scenarios where they're retrieving in lifelike situations, where they're retrieving in cattails, and where they're retrieving from one pocket, swim through a thing of cattails into another pocket. so that all this stuff is not new to them when you add in guns and 4 people and another dog and multiple birds on the water and all that kind of stuff. And just over and over and over to where they've kind of got that figured out. And she's not a robot by any means, but I can guide her to a duck, and having her out so much and having her hunting a lot. That's the other thing, is I know that I can hunt a lot. That I think if the dog has that natural ability, they just pick up the rest. You know, like I basically, if we drop 5 ducks and I'm on a pond that say you can maybe shoot across it or maybe not, and there's 5 ducks out there and 2 are in the cattails and 3 are floating around in the open, I can basically just take the duck from my dog's hand in my boat and just say back and just let her go. Like I don't have to line her up. She just goes and gets them. And then if there's one in the cattails, maybe I'll have to get her lined up and let's get her downwind and she does the rest, you know? So I'm not like a high, I'm never going to go give tips on dog training besides obviously the repetition and getting them to be comfortable with real life situations. But I think for a actual hunting dog, I haven't seen many dogs I would take over mine that I have hunted with before. That Rick guy, like he wouldn't bring his when he'd come out with us. He'd be like, well, you've got Echo, right? That's my old dog. And he goes, no, I don't need to bring whoever his dogs, his high powered dogs he had. He's like, no, I don't need to bring them. You got Echo, that'll be fine. I'm like, I took that as a compliment. Coming from someone who, hunts over dogs that he spends an hour a day with for 5 years training. So, but
I don't think you give yourself enough credit though.
Yeah, that's certainly more than a meat dog.
Yeah.
I mean, at least from people that I've seen around.
So I guess I differentiate maybe just the, so what kind of, another thing that made me not like dogs back in the day was, and I call them dog guys. And it's the guys that their whole hunting ego is based off of how amazing their dog is. And I hunted with enough of those to know that almost every time you met that guy, the dog was terrible. It was yelling and screaming and shocking going on, and the dog wasn't going to get the duck, and you ended up having to walk out to get the damn thing anyway. So that made me not want a dog for a long time. Sure. And so I've kind of like specifically not tried to be that. And obviously I just kind of talked my dog up a little bit. I mean, they're good. I'm not, like I said, though, they'd be literally the first dog to get eliminated in any field trial. Like I train them. Like I let her run around water. I let her do all that kind of stuff. Like I want her to go get the duck as quick as she can, whatever's going to get it there and bring it back. Perfect. So she's very good in terms of going to bring ducks to me and get them and staying still and not breaking and all that kind of stuff. For a hunting dog, they're not good for any of the other stuff. But I don't spend a lot of time, like, since this dog has been 2, I've never really like trained her. We go out in the backyard and throw, 25 dummies a day, but I'm just throwing dummies just to let her run around and do her thing. And, once in a while I'll take and have her at my side and throw one way and throw the other and send her on a line to one and send her to the other one. But that's the extent of it. I'm not doing anything beyond that anymore. I don't enjoy dog training for the most part. So you probably hear her barking. Someone had a biker downstairs now, I'm sure. So
that's okay. That was perfect timing on that.
Yeah, she's the guard dog.
Right on cue.
Yep. Yeah. All bark, no bite for her.
It's just, I'll just add like what you talked about though, Phil, with taking your dog down to where they're going to be, getting them to do what they're going to do. So when you go out and hunting, they're comfortable. Yeah. That's like the biggest thing.
Yeah.
That's literally the biggest thing.
I've seen a lot of dogs that are trained in backyards that you get them into that other situation, big open water, and there's a duck 75 yards out and they can't see it because it's wavy and they have no clue what to do. And I did that when they were not 2 months old, but once they were 5 or 6 months old, I'd be throwing dummies in a dummy launcher just way out there and get them comfortable to trust you as their handler to know that they can keep going back and keep going back. Mine now, like, if I send her on a blind, like she's not going to just run across a field 500 yards until I blow a whistle. She's going to stop and look back at me a few times, which for what I do, that's fine. I don't hunt that those situations where I need big, long, blind retrieves and that kind of stuff too often. I've trained my dog to be very specific to how I hunt. I hunt with small groups of people, typically in close finishing birds. We're not shooting big rainouts of snow geese and stuff that's dropping birds 100 yards out. So I've trained them to be very particular to how I hunt, and they're very good at that. And in other situations, they would probably not be so good. Like if I took her snow goose hunting, she'd be okay. She'd get it, but she's not going to be the most efficient at just running back and forth to pick up 20 snow geese. So,
yep. But I think there's wisdom here for people that have like first time dogs or that are trying to learn a bit more, right? You trained your dog to hunt in the situations where they're going to be hunting. You made them comfortable, and then they're successful. Like that's
and to let them learn, give them opportunities to learn. There's a lot of it too. I think a lot of things that you hear about dog training is super intimidating. And, as soon as someone gets a dog, their first thought is like, I need to send this to someone to get trained. But there's not that much to some of that stuff. I mean, it's just time, and even like, the most complicated thing that I do is the baseball drills, the left and right from a whistle. And within most dogs, I would think within two days or 3 days, they've got most of that down enough that you understand that they're understanding. And then once you kind of see that they're learning, like that becomes easy, and it's a little more fun then. And it's pretty cool to have trained your own dog. To watch them go do all that stuff, and that you kind of worked together on it and learned together. So especially on a first dog, that was, I do remember the first retrieve that my first dog made, and that was really cool.
Yeah.
A blue wing that landed 10 yards in front of us, but like, it was cool just to see her go grab it, actually pick it up and bring it back. I'm like, okay, it works. Like, she does what she's supposed to. Like, kind of a neat feeling.
Yes, it is. I could talk about dogs. I could keep you talking about dogs for a while now. Jeff, Matt, is there anything that we want to transition the conversation over to? I don't know, like boats or anything like that?
Well, if you kind of tie boats into the dogs, this is kind of a good transition. I have more of a selfish question, Phil.
Yep.
And this is something that I think I screwed up with my Vizsla a number of years ago, introducing a new dog to a boat, specifically a duck boat. You're not talking like a big pontoon boat that's going to be real stable. You're talking a loud, potentially mud motor, unstable, small John boat. I hit a rock with my Vizsla when she was young, scared the shit out of her, and she's been terrified of boats since.
Oh no.
What do you have? I know you said you didn't want to give out tips, but like, what do you do personally to kind of introduce your dogs to a duck boat specifically?
So I've taken both of my dogs, I've taken out. I'm in the process of building a new duck boat right now. It's just about done. And I took Findlay out on that one to get her used to it and kind of get her comfortable with it. She's been in duck boats so much that I probably don't need to do that. But I think it's just they have to get used to it. Like, realistically, they have to get used to driving in a car, because they're nervous the first time they're in a vehicle. In a boat, there's open air and there's water right there and there's splashing, and it's noisier. So I've taken mine all out in the boat as soon as I can. Take them out in my little paddle boats, my Karstens. I get them out in the water so to know that they have to stay in the boat, to train them to stay in, don't jump out, don't fall out, all the basics. But I don't have anything like particular that I've done. Like mine have just been in them enough and whatnot that over time I've gotten lucky too. I've never had that where they got afraid of it right away. I'm not sure how I would deal with that other than just try to slowly reintroduce it. But
yeah. Well, luckily she's more of a pheasant upland dog, so it's not a huge deal. But man, like in the summer months when I want to just go cruise around and scout, like I'd just love to, have her hop in with me. But I've tried a couple times, but I don't think there's any fix of that now that she's 7. So it's kind of like, but
I don't know what I would do there.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm sure like forcing her is probably painful because like you can tell she just does not want to do it. So.
oh yeah, she'll shake and try to get. I mean, I'd have to tie her up honestly, or she would
Yeah.
launch herself out of the boat regardless of what we're doing.
Shit.
So yeah,
Yeah, that's no fun.
Yeah.
It's damn near torture for them.
yeah. Well, and that breed specifically, I mean, they have a lot of anxiety and stuff. So, but it's just an unfortunate situation with that type of dog at a young age, I think.
Wild how that works. Just
Yeah.
that's the thing that they remember. And,
Yeah, for sure.
Oh no.
So yeah, speaking of boats, you got a boat for sale currently, don't you, Phil?
I do. That goes along with what I was saying about building this other one. I just finished up a new blind on a 17-foot John boat, and I'm selling an 18-foot John boat with a big hard side blind. Like, I guess Barney Caleb style would be the easiest for people to think of if they've ever seen any of his videos. It's that style, tall on the back where you sit underneath it, in the front you shoot over the top. You can stand up through it. So I just put that up for sale last week and had a few people interested. And actually, one of the guys was from Wisconsin, I think. So, a guy from Wisconsin, guy from Oklahoma. Probably a little early for the duck boat sales season, but I wanted to get it out there just in case.
You could be like me and sell your boat midway through the season like I did last year, but
Oh shit!
probably not recommended.
No, that's probably tough. Maybe if you did it in like early October, you kind of find one of those guys that needs one. But after that, you're probably scraping the bottom of the barrel for what's left for boat buyers.
Yeah. So why selling? It sounds like you downgraded. Well, not downgraded. You probably upgraded.
I
but
downsized.
Downsized. Why? Tell
Yeah.
us about that.
Well, so I used to hunt a lot of bigger of the reservoirs in the state and some of the really big open water more. And I've just gotten to where I don't love that as much. And I like to be in smaller water, and even if it's on these bigger bodies of water, I want to be in smaller pockets. Like my favorite hunting situation is to be in a pocket of cattails that's 150 yards wide by 150 yards wide, or something like that, but you're on a big body of water where the ducks are going to be on this big body of water, me being away from them far enough that shooting doesn't scare them all away. And I get that traffic to come overhead, whether it's on their way feeding, going to another spot, who knows, whatever they're doing. And so those tend to be pretty shallow. And my old boat is an 1860. It's a modified V. So, you've got that dip down in the middle there. Mm-hmm. My new boat is a 1756 with a pure flat bottom. And I had pods on it. And the whole goal, like this other boat takes probably like mid shin to really float in somewhere, like lower to mid shin. Which for some of these spots just doesn't work. Some of it works amazing, some of it doesn't, especially since I'm in these smaller places now. What I wanted to do, and the reason I built this other boat, I don't hunt these big places, so I don't need that big V'd bottom to cut waves as much. My old boat could hunt 4 people. It's ideal for 3, but you can easily hunt 4. But I almost never hunt 4. So I built this one to hunt 3 people pretty much exclusively. It's got that flat bottom. It's got those pods. I put a lighter weight motor on it. I specifically tried to make the blind a little bit lighter. I have less stuff in the boat. I'm going to I'm not putting like grass on it. If the big grass mats, I'm not going to do that. That saves me 100 pounds probably. I put a jack plate on it so I can crank the motor up and keep the motor more vertical when I'm in shallow stuff. Really the whole idea is that I can get somewhere and then push that boat if I need to up to the edge. Even if it's, even if it's a difference of 4 inches, that's a lot of times enough to get you back up to something rather than sitting out 6-8 feet where you just kind of stick out real bad. Mm-hmm. So that was the whole reason for it. Just kind of dialing in a little bit more, tuning into exactly what I need versus other. I mean, out of this other boat, I don't know how many ducks we shot out of it. A shit ton. I mean, a lot close. I mean, it hides really well and it's super comfortable. But I just kind of there's just some things after having it since 2016, 10, 11 years now, that I just know that I would like to do a little bit better, and I just kind of made all those changes on this one, and who knows, maybe I'll make another one in 10 years, or maybe this one will last me 20 and I'll be an old man by then. So,
well, hats off to you for lasting 10 to 11 years. I last like 2 or 3 years.
Well, I've got other ones too. That's just one of them. I have right now, currently sitting at my house, I have 3 motorized duck boats, 2 V-nose, like pointed, like push pull type duck boats, a canoe, 2 canoes. I think that's it. So I've got boats I changed blinds on another one. In that 10 years, I took one of those blinds and changed the style on that one, completely ripped it off and built a new one. So yeah, I'm always fine tuning and refining what I'm doing with those things. So, and part of this other one was I wanted to change how my dog sat. On the current boat, the dog is a little bit more forward, and she's next to me. She sits to where she's right by where I would sit, but she's on a little raised platform, and they can sit forward. So like your gun barrel feels like it's always right by him. It's not a problem. A lot of times we could position the boat so you kind of shot away from that a little bit. But I just wanted this one. I've got it set up so they're going to sit back even with us, and they're going to be tucked up underneath the same kind of head thing underneath the head that we will be. So they'll keep them a little warmer, out of the wind a little bit better, and back. So it isn't in the back of my mind when shooting that I have to watch out for the dog so much. Mm-hmm. So this one, there's that and a bunch of other little refinements I've made. It's lower, it's more curved rather than squared off. Just a few different things like that kind of will just probably make the hunting a little bit better. Maybe not. It might actually be a little bit less comfortable than the other one, but I'm fine with that because the other one was pretty Cadillac. So
now, is it a hard-sided blind that you're building in the new one too?
Yep, hard side on that too. Aluminum.
Okay.
Yep.
Have you ever messed around with the flip top blinds or the scissor blinds? What are your thoughts on those, and why do you think you go back to the hard-sided?
I've had them all. I've had the scissor style blinds. They're awesome for portability. They're light. The thing I don't like about them is you have no space inside of them when you're hunting, because the fabric sags down and you can't hardly put your head down. If the thing is tight enough to not have a big black channel in the middle, you can't hardly move your head. You can't bend over to pick up something that you dropped.
It's hard to stand up sometimes.
Yeah, the space is limited on that. I don't like that. I don't like that we hunt a lot when it's cold, and if stuff gets wet and then you fold them down and the next morning they're froze together. They're harder to hide because you don't have things to shove camo into as nicely as you do a hard side. That's what I don't like about those. I've had the Easy, what's the name of that? Pop-up brand. Have you ever seen those? It's a full. Yeah, they're out in Nebraska. It's a full fabric, and it's kind of what gave me the idea that I wanted a hard side. Other than watching Barney Caliph videos, that it comes up over the back of your head, and then it comes up to the front, and there's like a little window you look through, and then but what I hate about it is you pull this lever and it goes folds back over your head, all this noise and commotion and motion, and you're giving the ducks like a half-second head start, which is gigantic after you've had hunted out something like mine, where you're shooting at ducks that don't have no idea you're there till the gun goes off. And then with those blinds, you don't have anywhere to grass them because they're just fabric and there's no straps on them really. Mm-hmm. So they're harder to hide. I've had beaver tails. Yeah, they're okay. Super easy to set up, but hiding them again was not the easiest because every bit that you covered, you had to cut every single thing for it that day because you couldn't, you can't fold cover up inside of those things. And then so then I built my own that was essentially a hard side, the same dimensions and same the way that it lays out. It was a fabric blind that folded down, and it was really slick. I really liked that blind. It was warm. I had grass attached to it. It was on a 19-foot boat that I had, and I sold that boat when I built that first hard side. And I was kind of hesitant to get rid of it because the blind was super cool. But it was made out of PVC and PVC, not PVC, conduit. and like conduit joints, and so stuff would break, and it just got to be a hassle. And it was cold, and your buddy's 250 pounds, and he's pulling himself into the boat, and there goes the corner of your blind that's collapsed now. So you're rigging it up. Remember, we had to shove a cooler underneath it one time, and whatever, like just weird. I'm like, you know what? Like, I hunt enough in these cold conditions that it would make sense to get a nice warm thing to completely block the wind, keep the dogs warm, keep us warm, and hide us better. That's the thing with, this boat it's 1860. And so, it's 70, 80 some inches wide, and it's tall. Like, you got to be able to sit underneath them. So they're tall enough, but we've shot ducks off of like plain shorelines by just grassing them up and shoving them full of tumbleweeds and put a few logs across them to break them up. It's kind of that idea of like, guys putting 6 panel blinds in the middle of a field is better to hide than 1 panel blind is, because it doesn't look like a hunter. It's big enough that it looks like just something on the shore and not something out to get them. So that's all of those things combined, the years and years of having all these other blind styles and hunting and being here now where I can hunt in cold weather a lot longer. That's kind of everything that culminated in making these blinds and keeping them. It's just, and my other boat's a 16-foot boat, and it's got basically like if you took a panel blind and permanently attach a panel blind to it, but I've got that closed off a lot more than what most boats are. So like the wind doesn't come in the back and the front, and it hides awesome. It just isn't as comfortable as these other boats, but that's what I hunted out of almost all last year was my little boat. It's just, the thing can get away with, you can hide that thing in anything. So, we have a couple of friends who'd never hunted with me before. Absolutely amazed at like at the times I would let ducks pass to go overhead and not shoot them. I'm like, no, just wait. They'll come back. Like, they're not going to flare. They'd go over at 10 yards. Let's just get them to finish really good. And then sure enough, here they come, and they're fluttering at 10 yards and touching the water. And like, that's the whole boat blind thing. Like, that's the coolest part for me is when you do it right and you're hiding these big ass boats and you've got big fox and mallards in pressured areas that will come and just sit down just perfect for you. So that's kind of my favorite part about it.
Yeah, that's cool. I was a buddy of mine. I was texting him, telling him that you were coming on tonight, and that was one of his main questions. He's a big hard-sided blind guy as well, and it was how important you thought that overhead concealment was. It sounds like that is absolutely crucial.
Huge, and the 3D effect. So where I hunt here, there's an area that I hunt that has a ton of hard side blinds, and it's sad to see some of these guys that, they have $30,000-$40,000 boat setups, and they don't spend 5 minutes before hunting to grass them up right. They just take them out there and slap some yellow, grass they bought from Rogers on them, and they stick out like a sore thumb. And they don't break that up. They don't get that kind of 3D look, so that it doesn't look like a boat. You get some of that puffy factor, If you can do that, so they don't see you from, if I'm a mile away and I can see a boat, like that's a bad sign. A duck from above is going to see that. They're not super smart, but they're not dumb. They know what danger looks like. And if you can do that, and when you can have those birds, a flock of 20 or whatever, 5 or whatever, fly over your head, and all you hear is just that, and not the that difference. That's like the satisfying thing to me, because that they're completely fooled, and like then all you gotta do is turn around once they're past, hit them one more time, and then they're in. Rather than they're gonna circle 3 or 4 more times, like, which if they do, like, I'm usually not worried about, because they aren't seeing you. But overhead is huge. Even on my little boat, I've got a little system that, it's an A-frame style. So there's a channel, but I've got every hole covered up somehow. Like where we sit, there's a thing where we kind of push through some fabric that covers the hole. Where we don't sit, I've got like a little more hard cover there. But yeah, keeping that thing, that black hole look, is huge. I feel like that's what kills people most of the time.
For sure. And what are your thoughts on like the different types of grasses? I know there's all kinds of different stuff out there, like the synthetic grasses. I know, Matt, you have some of the blind grass, I think is the brand.
Yeah.
There's I forget the other stuff, last grass, I think, and you have your J Stern, that type of stuff. Like what do you prefer? What do you think works the best for boats specifically?
I've done I have a version of everything on my old line. I kind of took it all off, but I've had a version of everything on my little boat right now. I have all of that on there. I've used the grass mats, like the real grass. I use that as a base. I don't think I'm going to use it this year. I want to try without it because of the weight. But as far as, if you can get that on there and you set it up so it's face up vertical and it falls forward and it kind of adds that 3-dimensional look, that stuff's really good. I use raffia sometimes too on like overhangs, like to like hide where my dog sits. I'll put raffia there. So it kind of puts her back in the shadows. I'll use it on my boat, on my motor cover. I've got a piece of netting. I tie raffia onto that to break that up. But I would never want to do a full boat in raffia. For one, it's just heavy. It takes an ungodly amount of time. It gets tangled, gets wet. But I think it's really good for like high wear areas. And I've used that blind grass stuff, and I've seen some people who've done like entire boats in it. I don't know that I want to do that. I have a fair amount of it. I've got a bunch on one of my boats right now, and I like it. I think it's a very good base. I do use it on that little boat where I cover up where we sit. I've got it on PVC tubes, wrapped around PVC tubes, so I can pivot it. So like if there's no ducks coming, we just have them open and we can just sit there and look out or stand up. But if there's birds coming, you sit down and then you tilt it like a 45-degree angle, so it just comes over the top of your head. So it kind of looks like, it's poofy looking and it covers that hole. And we can just stand up right through it and shoot. But I don't know that I would want that. I don't think I would want that as the final thing that the duck saw on the majority of the boat, just because it is synthetic. Maybe it doesn't matter. I don't know. But I still, even where I have it on my boat, I still grass over it every morning. Whether I bring a weed trimmer out and cut some cattails and shove it in there, or just use what I have on it before. But
so you are using mostly like natural vegetation for the most part.
The vast majority of the boat will be some kind of natural. We have tumbleweeds out here sometimes if it's dry enough, and I'll probably use that as my base. Like you go in mid-October, probably about the time I'll start using that boat. You go and you find a bunch of tumbleweeds and you shove those in as a base into your fencing, and then what that allows you to do is to come back through with cattails when you get to whatever spot you're at and shove it into those cattails, and you can kind of add that 3-dimensionality where you have some going up and some kind of facing the water and some the other way and some kind of coming back over the boat. So you really break up that pattern of the boat. I have some pictures I should post sometime of my boat hidden. And I mean, you can see like the bottom of the hull on it, but the rest of it, like you would not hardly know if there's a boat there. And that's all through natural cattails and like creating shadows with those cattails, and using the cover that's there around you and trying to get into the shadows and that kind of stuff. Like, a lot of hiding these boats isn't just like what you shove on it, but it's where you position the boat in relation to like the sun, the wind, the decoys, and how a spot sets up. I mean, I have on my Onyx, I have pins that I'm like, okay, this is for like a northwest wind on this spot. And if it's sunny, this is for a southwest wind. And it doesn't always mean that like I'm going to have the wind perfectly at my back, but it means this is a spot where I can hide well. And it's a spot that ducks will come to for these particular winds. And so you can position your boat. Like there's places that I love, like some of my favorite things, like a south wind. And there's places where there's a real tall cover, like whether it's phragmite or real tall cattails, and you're on a south wind and you put yourself on the west side of that tall stuff and kind of tucked in underneath it, and your boat's in the shade, for those first 2 hours of the morning. I mean, you can get away with anything then, almost like you barely have to cover your boat when you're doing that because you're just in the dark. So like all those are some of the things I think that are as important for hiding a boat blind as much as what you actually do to the boat itself.
Yeah. And that's great advice. I think that's probably something that not a lot of people think about, is what is the boat going to look like well, I guess not even so much what the boat's going to look like, but positioning it in those shadows. And,
yeah. How does the duck, when the duck approaches it, you want it so that they're spending as little time over the top of that boat as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you're hidden well, you still don't really want them on top of you. And so I try to get in places where they're going to work out in front more or work from an angle. And I really do not mind like a quartering wind. You have to be, if I do that, I like to be a place where I've got like a block where like they can't finish beyond me. Cause then those side winds, you know, they like to, I found they like to like land at the top end of the decoy spread, which if you don't set up right, that means the guy on that top end of the spread is going to get all the shooting. But if you can find somewhere where you're like in a corner, you've got a little clump or something that will stop those birds there. I really like those quartering winds. I don't like a side wind, but if you can have like a 45-degree wind, that kind of, they're not facing straight at you. A lot of times they're looking a little bit past the front of your boat, you know, so they're not looking at you until you blow a duck call. Then they kind of look over at you, and that's where, you know, being hidden is critical. But yeah, all that little stuff, those are little things that, and you know, it depends on the spot too. There's certain places that a duck they don't work the way you think they're going to do, and rather than, you know, turning this certain direction, they come in and they have to do a figure 8 in front of you because you think they would make a right turn, and instead they go way left and they come back around, and that faces a funky way, and they can see a reflection off of something or you know, there's all those weird little things that happen when you're trying to hide these things, that until you've done it a bunch and see how ducks work and know your areas, like all of that can really be beneficial.
Yeah. I mean, just the strategy when you're in a boat, it's mind blowing listening to you talk about how much goes through your mind when you're trying to hide your boat. And it makes me think like, man, I need to think about this more, I think. And there's probably a lot of situations where I am sticking out like a sore thumb and I don't even realize, you know.
Oh, yeah.
And you talk about the natural cover too. Like I think that's a lot of people, it's probably just more laziness, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to get out of your boat. It's cold. Yep. It's early in the morning. You don't want to have to brush it in yourself. Like there's a lot of that, but man, can it make a difference if you brush it in with what's around you.
And everybody's spent money on a boat and a blind, and they think, oh, I've got this blind, like I'm good to go. This is a blind. Well, yeah, it is, but you know, it's like saying you have a shotgun and you're never going to shoot it. You're just going to go out and kill ducks with it, but you have to spend the time, you know, behind the scenes to do it as well, to make all that stuff work. Like everybody that's hunted with me now, like they know to expect like my answer. Like if does it look good enough? Well, we probably could get one more bundle. We probably could do one more. Let's go cut one more bundle. You know, like that little extra bit. And someone's like, I don't. Do you think so? Well, maybe not. And then the first flock doesn't finish just right. You're like, well, shit. Let's go get another bundle quick and cover up the dog hole better or do whatever. So I'm not like super finicky. I feel like I know when it's going to work and when it's not going to work now.
Yeah.
And
if you can finish your hunt, and if it was, say it was a mediocre hunt or a bust of a hunt, if you can finish the hunt and know that there was no question in your mind that your blind wasn't part of the reason that you weren't successful. Like, I feel like that's a huge weight off of your shoulders, right?
Yeah. You want to control all the things that you can control. I mean,
right.
You know, like I can't control if someone shoots 500 yards away from me when I got a flock of ducks coming in. And they flare. You can't control if the birds didn't fly the day. You can't control if someone busts the roost and they're not there, or someone hunted it the night before you hunted it and you don't know that they're gone. That stuff you can't control, but your concealment in some environments is the one thing that you can really control. In some places you can only do so much. But you know, like where we hunt up north here, like, I mean, we're blessed with cattails and some banks that might have trees or whatever. So we can tend to hide. And I feel like the most of the time, if we're not hiding well, it's because of our own choice, you know, because we didn't do something. And that's the one thing that probably I am almost always going to make sure that we do is be hidden well. Like first thing, if a friend, and I try to get this ingrained in all my buddies, like, okay, if you're scouting, the first thing I'm going to ask you, what's the cover like? What's the cover like? Is it cattails? Are you sure it's cattails? It's not the triangle grass. There's a little grass we have up here that's kind of like shaped like a triangle, and it only grows to like, you know, 1.5 feet or 2 feet over top of the water, which will never hide a boat. But when you look at it from a distance through binoculars, it looks like cattails. And so the amount of times I've had friends be like, "Oh yeah, there's great cover. It's thick." Then we get there and it's this triangle grass, and, you know, like it doesn't even barely cover the hull of the boat. Like, well, now what do you do? So I asked that question. What's the cover like? Is it thick? What can we hunt it with this wind? The wind's supposed to be this tomorrow. You know, those little things, pre-prep.
And they're probably just like, I don't know, man. I just saw a shitload of ducks.
Yeah,
so let's go.
Well, yeah, that's what it was at first, and now they all start to know that, like, you know, this is all part of the game to, like, you really do it right. I mean, you know, you can go out and shoot ducks any old way. Like, I mean, if a guy just wants to flat out just pull the trigger on ducks, I mean, none of this stuff is really that critical, because you can get ducks to fly 50 or 60 yards away and bang away a box of shells and drop 5 of them and give your dog a hell of a workout. But, you know, I don't want to do that. Like, I want to do it right, where they're finished properly, and that's the whole fun of it. Like, I don't want to just pull the trigger. I mean, if I did that, I'd just go shoot clay pigeons, you know. I want to shoot them close and have it right. I mean, an example, it's just not to brag on my shooting, but I had a stretch later in the season this year. I was by myself for quite a few days, or with just one other guy, where in 27 shots, I shot 27 ducks. Dang. So I was like, you know, but they're all at 20 yards backpedaling. But that's more of a testament to, like, how we like to shoot them and finishing them right than it is to, like, my shooting. I'm not a terrible shot, but it's just like that's the whole cool thing about it. Like, and when you're doing it out of a boat that you spent a whole freaking 2 months building and putting the details on, and then with your dog and all that stuff, it just kind of adds an extra little bit of coolness to it, I think.
Yeah, the boat thing is very rewarding. You know, being somebody that owns a duck boat, and Matt, you own a duck boat as well. Like, it is a very rewarding thing, especially like to take out a friend, and, you know, maybe somebody that doesn't have a boat and have a successful hunt in a boat that you built. Like, it's a very enjoyable, almost, you know, just as much as having, not as much, but it's like having a dog and being the guy that brings the dog, you know?
Well, it adds like a little bit of adventure always to a hunt, you know, versus like a walk-in hunt or a field hunt. Like, the boat rides are, I mean, I'm not like a dude down south where, you know, I've got like all the fancy interior lights and roost lights and that kind of stuff on my boat. But like, I think they just have their duck boats just to take rides in the morning. But there's always that like sense of adventure that, you know, when you launch your boat at 5 o'clock in the morning and you're driving across the lake, and
you flip those big lights on, the big light power on in the front. It's like,
it's like there's something very cool about that. And I mean, I'll do everything I can to hunt out of a boat. Plus, it's dry, and, you know, you've got a place to set stuff. I like all of that. I mean, I'll do walk-in hunts in, you know, the first part of our season starts in September, and I'll do walk-in hunts then, and I'll do walk-in hunts in October. But if I can be in my duck boat, like, I mean, that's the best place to be for me.
So I'm thinking a lot about the brushing stuff in, Jeff, right? When I've hunted with you out of your boat, right? Thinking about how much more I need to be on the ball with that and helping you get things brushed in. Matt, are you brushing things in as much as Phil is recommending?
No, definitely not. I mean, that's definitely not the reason I don't shoot as many ducks, but no, I don't.
less YouTube watching, Matt, more brushing in of the blind.
Yeah.
You know, part of it too, it depends on where you're at. Like, you know, if you're not in cattails, and if you're just, I mean, you guys probably have, like, I don't know if you're in cattails a lot on that kind of stuff, or if you're on like a hard edged type slough where you've got a lake, but, you know, you like just a big tree branch or two across your boat, like, makes a gigantic difference. And we had a couple spots where we were on like this weird, I'm not going to give too much away. It was like an area that nobody hunts. But it was a weird cover, and there were no cattails right there. It was some really, really thin phragmites and a couple of like sparse trees. And we just took some of the trees that died and just put them over the top of the boat and took a few pieces of that phragmite and kind of shoved them into those trees. And like, when you go back and look at it, like, well, it looks like a boat, but it's broken up enough. And I mean, those things like had no clue just because you break that big blob up.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So it all depends on the particular thing, but and the wildest thing is I got a buddy who's I'm looking at a picture right here. It was a friend of mine, it's like from 10 years ago. He moved to Montana. He had one of those pop-up brand blinds, and that dude would set that thing, just push it in the cattails, no cover on it whatsoever, and he shot ducks close all the time. I don't know how he did it. I have no idea, because no one else I know can do it, but he did it somehow. And so, like, in the right spot, in the right circumstance, you can get away with some stuff. But he was smart. I mean, he knew how to use the light and that kind of stuff too. So, but for the most part, I think concealment is, without a doubt, the number one thing that is underappreciated by duck hunters. I mean, people worry about decoys and their call, and I mean, it's somewhat important, but hiding yourself is for sure the most important thing. I mean, you would think, in turkey hunting, like, no one's gonna just like stand up against a tree, like make yourself visible. You're like, if you move, you're done. Or in deer hunting, everyone's up in a tree or in a blind, like, or behind a bunch of brush. Like, you're not. They take concealment seriously for those, but for duck hunting, it's kind of like, oh, we're here, they're fine, like, because you think the cover in front of you is nice and thick. Well, that's not where duck comes. Duck doesn't swim into us. They're coming in from above. So, yeah. And it was funny is, like, that's a tip that I wish other people knew, because I wish people that hunted around me hid better so that they would shoot their ducks faster and get out of the way.
I was gonna say, oh, maybe they're flaring birds and they're coming to you though, Phil.
No, they don't come. That's the problem, is once they're getting shot at. There's a place I hunt where, I mean, we can watch. We can watch a fair amount of other ducks get shot at throughout a day. And I feel like if there's three of us, if you give us 3 bunches and a single or 2, like, we're done. Like, that's what we need. We're going to get our ducks out of that almost every time, because we're very efficient on getting them in close enough, and you're making hay with what you've got. Mm-hmm. But man, like, I've sat on days where I've seen people shoot into 20 bunches and they aren't done. And we're out of there, and they were in maybe a better spot or whatever, and they had way more ducks coming, but we got our 3rd bunch in and we're gone. And here's like, these places, these ducks can only take so much pressure before they're gone. Like, I would rather have people get their 3 flocks in, shoot them, and get the heck out and be successful, rather than sit there and bang away all day at birds at 60 or 50 or 40 yards and, kind of like screw it up for everybody else. Like, it makes it better when other people, I mean, I just wish they weren't there in the first place. but if they're going to be there, which they are, I'd rather have them shoot their ducks and get out and let those other ducks, find a place to sit or come to us or do whatever, but, not just continually get banged at all day long. So,
yeah, for sure. Well, before we get into calling, Matt, I know you got a hard-sided blind. You got any questions?
I don't think so. I mean, I remember what boat was it that, I know I watched your YouTube videos back in the day, like a couple years ago, when I was starting to build my boat. What boat was that? I thought it was a 16-foot, but was it your 1860?
Oh, so both of them. So in like 2016 was when I made my 1860, and that's the high-low style.
Yep.
And then I built one for a buddy on a Go Devil boat, and that was a high-low style too. But before that one, I had a 16-foot, a 1648 that I made. I did not weld back then. It was a pain in the ass. I made it out of aluminum, and it would be comparable to like what those gator tracks boats are, where like you sit on the floor of your boat flat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the one I remember watching. But then I remember the high-low one as well.
Yeah, so I made that 1648 and it was cool. Like, I mean, the thing hit unbelievable, but the only problem was I was the only one who could shoot out of it. Like, nobody else. It was a 2-person boat, and no one I hunted with could really shoot out of it, because like you're sitting, and it was a little awkward. So we ripped that off and put that A-frame style blind on that one, and that thing has been amazing. The amount of good hunts we've had out of that thing have been unreal, and it's a super, super basic blind. I mean, it's essentially just 2 sheets of metal slapped up on the edge, and then just kind of cover them up on the ends. But that,
I don't remember. Did you rivet everything in that one, and have you taught yourself to weld since then for these blinds?
On that low profile, low profile? So what I did was, it was all riveted, and wherever I had a joint. Okay, so
Yep.
like, say you have a 1 inch piece of square tubing, and I would put an inch from an end when I needed a joint. I would take and I would cut
But yeah.
3 sides of it out,
Yeah.
and then you have that 1 inch tab that
Yep.
sticks up on the top, and that you would put that on top of the next piece, and then drill through both, and then rivet that. It sucked. It was unbelievable.
That's
it was
so much work.
It was terrible, the amount of work. I mean, it was horrible. So that's after that. When I decided I was going to build this high low, like, oh, I need to weld, and so I just bought a welder and started watching some YouTube videos and learned to weld some aluminum. And it wasn't the prettiest welds, but they've held. I've not had to really repair anything on the boat besides one little thing on my ladder one time. So,
Well, if you hide it well enough, nobody's going to see those shitty welds.
well,
anyways,
yeah,
right?
most of the spots where you can't see, and like,
Yeah.
I mean, they stick. Like, I mean, I'm not winning any welding contests by any means, but like, I don't know, it holds up. I mean, that thing's been through hell and back between rough boat rides and trailer rides and wind and whatnot, and bumping into trees and whatever else, and it's held up fine. So
Nice.
This new one I did a better job on. I mean, I've just gotten better and watched more videos. It's super thin metal. I mean, it's like 1/16 walled tubing. I mean, it's stuff like that. Like, people who are very good at welding say that they don't like to do, and that's like the only thing I've ever done. So for me, it's just like, that's what it is. But it's hard. I mean, I should have a TIG welder rather than a MIG welder. Like, I welded an eyelet, to hook a rope onto on the front of this new boat, so that the hull was 0.1 metal. So that's almost twice as thick as the tubing, and then the eyelet, super thick metal. And like, when I got done with that, I'm like, God damn, like, this looks like professional work, because it's like so thick that after doing all that skinny stuff, I'm like, this is a breeze.
Just hammer down.
Yeah, I just went, and it looks awesome. I'm like, I don't even have to like grind it or nothing. Like, I just left it. Like, I want people to see this thing.
Yeah.
So,
That's
but yeah, like, I had to learn how to weld, and it was kind of fun. It comes in handy, like, for other little things around the house. But
For sure.
it was a project. So
Aluminum welding is no joke. I'm entrenched in the welding world in my career.
Mhm.
And we do a lot of aluminum TIG welding as well. And it's no joke, especially like the cleanliness is the biggest thing when it comes to welding aluminum.
Yep.
Like, you got to get that oxide layer off, and you got to weld it very quickly after you do so,
What I learned was for this boat is I feel like I cleaned things better, and I preheated. I never had preheated.
Oh, sure.
I'd never preheated before, and that made a big difference. I was able to run not as hot, so I didn't burn through as much on that real thin stuff. So yeah, it was. And I finally learned in my head that welding a corner joint is very different than welding the outside where it's flat. Like, the way the heat dissipates into the metal is very different on those two pieces. So I would set them. I made a point to like set the make sure they have the settings different for those two, like, which made a big difference for me. So
when you're in probably some awkward positions, if I can imagine as well. Like,
Yeah.
when you're trying to weld overhead versus flat versus vertical, like, it's all so different in the way that puddle reacts.
I'm good on vertical and pointing down. I do not like overhead. I'm terrible. I don't. Yeah. I pretty much just tapped those and just made sure all the other welds were really good.
Especially MIG welding.
It was not. Yeah, I need to. If I do another one, I'm going to have a TIG gun.
Yeah, for sure.
Figure that out.
I certainly didn't. Yeah, I was gonna say I certainly did not have us having. I didn't have money on the let's have an in-depth conversation on welding.
It wasn't on your bingo card?
No, that was not on my bingo card here tonight.
That's another thing I'm not an expert in. I just know enough to get me by on.
Yeah, and that's all you need.
Kind of like my dog training.
Yeah. Well, my last topic was. Go ahead, Tyler. You wanna?
I was saying, let's flip it over to calling, Jeff. Take the reins. Go ahead.
My last topic, Phil. I saw a post. I think it was it? It might have been today.
Yeah.
It was a video of you calling a group of ducks. And you mentioned how critical calling at birds can be. I'm a very average caller at best. So in my mind, a lot of times, like, less is more. Like, just simple quacks and little feed chuckles here and there. Like, I generally am quieter more than I am loud, but with you, it seems like you're a firm believer, that with talking to them and interacting with the birds, can Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes. So I was definitely in the same boat. You know, you like my dad was not a duck caller. He had duck calls, but was not a duck caller. And I mean, and back then up north here, like there wasn't very many duck callers. There was few people that were really proficient with duck calls. There was a couple guys that I had met that were kind of locally famous in my area that were duck callers. And of course, like I wanted just to be as good on duck calls as I could, but I never had a lot of references of like what to do until I went to game fair. And I heard someone, you know, an aisle over. I just had the guy's name the other day and I can't think of it. But whatever his name was, he made a plastic duck call, and it was a single rate, and it sounded like nothing I'd ever heard. And I was probably 12, you know. I'm like, we got to get this thing, and we go to buy it. And I sounded terrible on it. And I never really figured duck calling out until I was probably like, I really figured it out until I was probably like 19 or 20, when I was like, okay, this works. Now I need to perfect it. We were on a lake. It was a nasty ass day on a lake, kind of close to home, on an island, Cattail Island, in the middle of this big lake. And I remember a flock of like 15 came over us, and I had a big guy's best widowmaker that one of my buddies had bought me. And the thing was loud. And I remember I hit these mallards, and I could operate a duck call well, but I never really had a lot of like trust in it. And then all of a sudden this flock just spun just like that. I'm like, holy crap, that was from us. And they came and they finished and we shot them. And I was like with my buddy, and I said, like, they turned from us. He's like, yeah, they did. And then I'm like, okay, now we need to like really figure this out. And at that time I was in the process of like, kind of like really practicing to be a better duck caller. Like I competed in a bunch of like 2-man contests and stuff back in the day. So I was like proficient, and I was rapidly improving at that point in time. And then we hunted. I'll give the name of this lake because no one in the right mind from out of the area would go there to hunt it. It's called Swan Lake, in southern Minnesota. It has ducks, but it has more hunters than ducks. And but it can be a really cool place at times. And we hunted the spot closer to home one morning. Had no action. I said, let's go try this place out. At least go look at it. It was the last day of the season. I said, let's go look at it. So we drove over. It was like an hour away. And we got there. I mean, there's people absolutely everywhere. And like, we're getting yelled at to like move, get out of here. And we found a spot away from people. And we set up, and it was late morning by then, probably close to noon. And there was ducks flying, and it was cold, and it was windy, and it was sunny. It was like perfect duck calling conditions. And I remember flock came over, and my buddy hit them, and they hooked up, and they started coming. And, you know, we're like, okay, now let off them because they're coming. So we just let off of them. And all of a sudden, and this is an area where duck calling was a big thing. Like this little micro area had duck callers in it, and was specifically a place where the good duck callers in Minnesota went to hunt. And all of a sudden, like 400 yards away, really, really aggressive. Like you wouldn't think you would work. Those ducks peeled right off of us, right into them. I'm like, son of a bitch. Okay, next flock comes by, we hit them. Same thing, they're working us. Those guys hear us, see the ducks, same exact deal. I'm like, all right, we got to stay on them the whole way now. We can't let up on them. So sure enough, another flock came, and we called them all the way into the boat, finished them. I'm like, all right, this is how you hunt in these conditions. And this is ducks, you know, that were not coming to this spot. They were just coming and going off of a refuge to go feed or whatever they were doing. And we started them aggressive and finished them just as aggressive enough to not let these other guys that were screaming at them to pull them away. And a couple of the places I hunt are very much the same thing. There's a lot of people, and there's a lot of good. I mean, 20 years ago, there were not many good callers there. 15 years ago when I started hunting, there weren't many good callers. Now everybody's a good duck caller, it seems like. And so you have to be even more aware that if someone's in your nearby area, you have to stay on them. And that's kind of what that post was about. But my general consensus is like, if I see a duck flying, like almost everywhere I duck hunt, I'll preface with that, like almost everywhere I hunt, I probably hunt 50 to 60 days a season. And almost every one of those is not on the X. Like we are specifically trying to stay away from the X, trying to be under the path between where they're feeding and where they're roosting. And with that, that means like those like little quiet quacks like aren't going to do much because they might be 1, 2, 3, 4, or 500 yards away. I mean, they're at the extent of like what a duck call can reach. And that's why, I mean, I blow like a lot of the calls you can get, like a JJ Layers hybrid and like a Lane Dunning custom call. And they're both super loud, super brash. And they've just got that pop and that snap. And so like you need to get something to reach out there and make them hear that. I mean, if you're ever hunting with someone, it'd be interesting if you're hunting with someone, have them call like they would normally call the duck sitting down in their blind, pointing their duck call down and calling, and then walk out 75 yards from them. I bet you can probably barely hear most people because like everybody just wants to be quiet. And like that idea of like, you know, really like coax them in and just give them a little bit is still pretty prevalent. But I found that if those birds are high up and if they aren't showing, you know, if they're not showing any signs or indication that they're coming to you, what do you have to lose? I mean, you can start off with doing a few quiet hands and stuff, pop, 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 pop. But man, if that doesn't work, like let 2 or 3 guys rip at them. And as long as it sounds good and it sounds like ducks, I mean, you'd be surprised at the number of birds that all of a sudden, like one duck, you just see that one duck just starts to kind of jitter. It just looks like it gets nervous and doesn't want to, and all of a sudden you just keep on them, and all of a sudden, boom, that one just folds, and the rest of them just follow it. And once that part is started, like I feel like 75% of the time you've got them at that point. That's the big thing, is to get those birds. If you're in an area where you can see 5, I feel like if we can get 5 flocks to come over us in a day that are in calling range, what we would consider a general calling range, like we're going to end up with a pretty good day. We might not kill 15, but we are going to shoot 10 out of that. If, you know, some of you're just not going to turn; they're just going to go by. Some you might turn one of them. You might get a couple turned, and then they pick up and go back with the rest of the flock. But 2 of them might come in 2 passes, you know, within 20 seconds of that first break. So yeah, I'm a very firm believer in aggressive calling. Like there's a time and a place for it, and you need to be able to like tone it down. As once you've got them broken, you don't need to be as loud and as aggressive, especially if there's no one around you. I mean, if I'm in some place I hunt around here, you know, there aren't a lot of people, and if there aren't people, you know, then we let them do their thing, and you only hit them when you need to, like, you know, on the corner, boom, hit them. Once they get to 75 yards up, hit them, let them turn, hit them, turn them the other way, and then, you know, we're hidden well enough that like I'll call until like literally until I pull the trigger to position them that last little bit. Like if I need them to come 10 yards further, I'll hit them one more time, because you'll get them to feather up and, you know, kind of like hover a little bit more further, or a couple will come that way, or maybe they're going to land to your left and you hit them, the guy on the right side of the boat calls to bring them up for a little bit more to the right. So
yeah, it's interesting. Like, and I get that it's definitely situational.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, you always hear if they're coming, just shut up and let them come, right? But it sounds like there is a time and a place where you shouldn't, and you should stay on them all the way into the hole.
Yeah, I mean, if you have people around, I mean, like, you know, there's no like, so these places that I hunt with a bunch of other people, my thought is generally, I try to play it out and see how those guys, the other people around us, like treat when we have ducks working us. If we have ducks working us and they lay off, like if they get them set in on them, if they saw them first and they break them and they're working them first, I'll let them have them. But if we have ducks working and they keep calling, or if we have a flock of 30 working and they shoot a single, well, then I'm like, well, you know what? Like this game isn't, like, this isn't fair. Like I'll call it your ducks. So at that point, you know, then it's fair game. I'll call it someone else's ducks. And that's the battle, is you have to try to find that line where you're trying to finish ducks while someone else is 300 or 400 yards away screaming at them, trying to pull them off of you into them.
Mm-hmm.
And that becomes finicky, and sometimes it screws both of you. And so that's why, like, I would rather, like I said before, if they're going to allow us the same courtesy, I will let them finish them so that, maybe they shoot their 10 or 15 ducks and get out of there, and then they're not in our hair and we can shoot ours later on. And plus maybe then they understand that, well, hey, we'll let them have theirs. But yeah, a lot of times, you're not going to get that, and you kind of got to be lucky that the guys around know, and understand that part of it. But yeah, like and so I've always thought that the idea that you have to be super quiet once they start getting close. I can't tell you the amount of times that we're hunting some big water or one of these spots where there's trafficking ducks, and you're screaming, all the 2 or 3 of us, and we're decent enough callers. There's 2 or 3 of us just screaming super loud, super aggressive at birds 500 yards away. And all of a sudden you look and you're like, shit, take these ones in the decoys. They're right there hovering, and your other 2 buddies are still going, just railing on them super loud as they can. And there's, 5 mallards at 15 yards backpedaling, floating, looking for a place to land as these guys are screaming. You're like, well, didn't really matter if they were quiet or not. And there is force, and depending on the weather and all that, like, you can definitely blow ducks out. I've seen it. I've done it. I've had it happen. But I think that the be quiet thing is probably overplayed more than underplayed. Like if you're on a cloudy, like a flat, cloudy, gross, hazy day, and you're not hidden well, like, then that's bad, because the calling has a different like presence to it than if it's like a clear, dry, crisp, windy day. But if you're hidden well too, like, you can get away with a lot, because those ducks, they'll look, like, you'll see them look at you sometimes. And I see that a lot, like with like when I'm taking photos. Like, I used to see it, like when I had a camera that had a shutter that made a noise, like you'd see them look over at you just from that little noise. So like when you blow a duck call, they're for sure looking at you, and they'll see them finish right up to the boat sometimes. So like, if you're the better hidden you are, the more you can get away with that kind of stuff.
Tyler, you're itching to ask a question.
No, I'm just making, it's got me thinking. Phil's just got me thinking a lot about a very, very highly pressurized spot that, Jeff and I frequent.
It's like hail call central at that place is what it is.
Yeah.
And
how to approach
it. It depends on like how their hunters are like. If they're good callers, the whole deal, like, you need to sound like ducks. If you go back and listen to someone like doing a true like ringing hail call, like, I never do that. Like, like the actual like main, like a contest, like the da, da, like, well, I've never done that, but very loud and nearly that loud, but sounding more like a duck, more of a, like, just more of a hen sound,
like that quicker cadence. Yeah.
But, my calling, like, it's funny. I was yesterday, when I posted that video, I wrote it up 2 days ago, and I just had it saved, and I'm like, I'm looking through my videos from last year, and I was watching a couple of them, and like, my calling is exactly the same. Like, my sequences are exactly the same for every flock of ducks until they do their thing. And then when they do their thing, I change it up a little bit, but to get them to break down, I'm like, it sounds like the same video over and over. And then all of a sudden you see that one break, then the one breaks, and then they all break. And then where like some of the differences come in. But like, I had my own, I don't know if you guys ever listened, but I had my own podcast a few years ago. And one of the last episodes that I think we did was about like trying to make duck calling easy. And it was kind of funny because it was myself, my buddy Bill, and then Ryan Graves. And we were like, yeah, duck calling simple. But they're like, well, what about this? And what about that? And what about this situation? Like, okay. Yeah, there's all these little like one-off nuance things that matter a lot. Like, what the weather's like, what your height is like, what the birds, how much they've been hunted. Have they been hunted in that spot? What duck call, how much wine you should have. All these little things are like, yeah, some of this matters in this time, and this matters in that. And what if they're going away? What if they kind of flared? Then what do you do? Like, yeah, there's a lot of little things that you have to just know and have to have experienced to know it. And you just pick that up with hunting more and calling more and having more interactions with ducks. So, if you got a spot at home where there's a lot of traffic, and if there's a lot of other hunters, do those guys, do they shoot a lot of ducks? The guys calling a lot?
They shoot at a lot of ducks.
Yeah. So, like, do you think so now? Like, I mean, do you see them like break them down? Like, do they like? Does it seem like?
Oh no, no. It's a lot of just pass shots, sky blasting. Like there's a lot of that. It's a walk-in spot that's pretty big, but I hunt out of my boat on the back side of it.
Mm-hmm.
Most of these guys, yeah, they're sky blasting anything that flies, within 50 yards above their head.
Yeah, so then just glorified pass shooting.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's hard then because, like, the problem then too is if you do get some working and then someone in the distance shoots, that's the most frustrating thing you could ever have happen.
We've had that multiple times. Oh yeah.
I've had it, and there was a day last year we probably had it 5 times. Nice bunches. We have a nice bunch working. Within 5 seconds of shooting, all of a sudden someone, boom, one shot. You're like, are you freaking kidding me? And that's not the words I used. And then you're like, God dang it. So, if there's a lot of shooting going on sometimes, I don't know. I still would rather just wait it out and try to shoot them close than shoot a whole bunch going over my head, randomly. So
agreed.
Yeah.
Now, my last question on the calling front was, what do you think, what is your most deadly call? Like, it sounded like it was just that quick, that just that 3 or 4 quack cadence, or do you do the feed chuckle a lot or bouncing hen? Like, what do you like the most?
So if I could only know 2 different calls, I would want to know the loud, aggressive, like not quite a hail call, but a toned down hail call, but very loud and aggressive. And then the next one under that would be like a fairly loud 3 to 4 note kind of greeting, hen call, whatever you call it. The next thing after that would be single quacks. And then after that, probably a feed call. I mean, a feed call is up. I feel like up here, a feed call is pretty worthless other than like when you're hidden really well and you want to use it as they're like, if you have a flock of mallards beaming in on you like a laser beam, like a feed call is like a good way to keep them focused on your spot and not let them slide. But you have to be hidden on that deal. But that is like a way for them to come in and keep that attention on you rather than slide to the side a little bit. Mm-hmm. Like if there's a flock of ducks coming in there at 150 yards and they're coming, like you've got your gun in your left hand, like you're going to be shooting soon. I still have my call in my other hand, waiting for the second that you see a duck start to slide off just a little bit, just a real quick little, just or a feed or something to square them back up again, because that almost always will do it. Unless it's something because the wind is really funky or whatever. But in a normal situation, just any kind of a sound or even a single quack can do it. Just something to get them to kind of look back over and come right back at you. So
awesome. Those are great tips.
I wouldn't like a lot of people focus on like I can't learn the feed call. Like, don't worry about it. Like if you're in the woods, like those guys, like they rely on a feed a lot more because they're calling when the ducks are straight ahead and all around in a circle, and they're super loud. And now the whole deal is there's just a lot of people hunting in a group down there. And then if you're just trying to sound like a whole bunch of ducks, very different than like what we're trying to do, I think, especially when we're finishing them. But for hunting up in anywhere in like a marsh type setting, I don't think a feed call is a very necessary piece. It's cool and it sounds awesome. Like they're fun to blow. Like it sounds neat when you do it and you hear someone do a real cool feed. It's super cool, but like I don't think it does a whole lot for northern type hunting.
No, that's awesome. That's really good advice. I feel like I'm monopolizing this entire episode here, guys. You guys have any other questions on calling?
I'm listening and I'm learning here, Jeff. All right.
I'm
taking Phil's masterclass right now. All right.
Oh man, it was fun talking about it. I haven't talked a whole lot of duck hunting in the last couple months, so
yeah, it's gonna be coming up here quick though. I mean, September 1st here is our early teal.
Less than 3 months.
Dang.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah, 3 months. That's wild.
Yeah, awesome.
I haven't done much early goose. You guys have an early teal over there?
We do. Yeah, September 1st. It's usually a five day.
It's 9.
9
days. 9 days. I don't know why I'm thinking 5 days.
Yeah,
9 days.
I was 15, but we're changing it to 9 this year.
Yeah,
Ooh.
we get a shitload of blue wings in this area early in September.
Oh yeah.
And generally, even into the regular season, most of the opener here, like the southern opener, most people are shooting blue wings almost exclusively. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Ours is weird. We don't do a dedicated season, but we have I think it's a 14-day stretch built into the first 14 days of our regular season where we can shoot 8 ducks, and the extra 2 have to be blue wings.
Oh, that's neat.
So we could actually shoot for the first 2 weeks of our season. We could shoot 8 blue wings if we wanted to, or 6 whatever ducks and 2 other blue wings. It's kind of nice because it doesn't mess with our regular opener. It doesn't scare everything else out, you know.
Yeah,
right.
I like that part.
I can't imagine you choose that tier 2 license with the splash.
Oh no, definitely not.
we were just talking about that a little bit.
I actually, someone that I knew did it, and I was kind of surprised that they did it. I don't remember who it was though now.
Yeah,
but otherwise I've never heard.
Like Ramsey Russell's podcast on it. I just listened to that not too long ago, and they were talking about it, and it was pretty fascinating to like think about it in the terms of like a hunter satisfaction side of things, and like lower the bag limit, right? You're gonna have a happier hunter because they shot their limit.
Got our limit.
Right? Yep.
I've said that before. Like I would have no problem if a lot of these states would, or in places that is like one of these places I hunt. I wish we would lower the limit in a couple of these spots I hunt, lower it down by 1 or 2 even. Make it 3. I would have no problem if I could shoot. I mean, when I was growing up, 3 mallards was 3 ducks was the limit for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I would have no problem with that. Biomeda down in Arkansas, I think they just changed it, but for years and years, it was a 3 mallard limit in that particular WMA. And like you said, like people are happier. Like I've hunted in Montana in the 7 mallard limit. I was not any happier when I shot 7 than when I shot 5, or if I go to Missouri and shoot 4, like, or Arkansas, you know, it's the whole, I mean, as much as I try, like I'm the biggest proponent of like, don't worry about your limit, but it's still so ingrained in my head that like, if I shot 4, if I can shoot 5, like we should shoot 5 because that is the sign of a good hunt, even though I know it's not the case.
Yeah.
But it's just something about that a hunter is happy. Like I think if we had a 3 mallard limit, everybody would be just as happy. And I
always laugh like every season. It's like everybody on social media be like, we shot 1 man short of a 2 or one bird short of a 2-man limit. I'm like,
yep.
So you shot 11 ducks. Like it's okay.
Yeah.
You could just say 11 ducks.
I hate it. I'm so sick of hearing that 15 man. We shot a 12 man. Like what's a 12 man? You mean 11 ducks?
I can't even do this. Like how many birds? Just tell me how many birds you shot.
Let me get my calculator out.
Yeah.
It's so wild. Like
we shot 3 birds shy of a 5-man. It's like, well, now I got to figure this out. Like just tell me how many.
Just tell us. Like no one really cares anyways. Like just tell us. Oh, we had a great hunt. Here's all the ducks we shot. Look, by looking at the picture whether it was a good hunt or not. Like it's not like anyone's gonna, I mean, I should say I know I have counted someone's ducks before just if they were being super cocky, but for the most part, like who really cares if they shot 19 or 20, you know, like who gives a shit? Like you're jealous or you're not. Like okay.
Oh, there was one hidden underneath there, you didn't see it. It's like nobody cares.
Oh god. Oh, get that one out, get that white one on top because you can see that one better than that brown one. Yeah, all of that stuff. It's hilarious.
We're pretty silly sometimes, us as waterfowlers, when it comes to that stuff.
Yeah, that's it. I'm surprised that anybody is choosing that deal because I mean they propose it, you know, as an idea for new hunters, but I'm like, honestly, can you imagine like an adult be like, I want to get into duck hunting, but the thing preventing me from duck hunting is I don't know what kind of ducks to shoot. Not like, holy shit, I got to have decoys and waders and mojos and go find places to hunt and learn how to call. But like that little thing is going to be the thing that makes them go hunt.
Yeah.
Like everybody learned how to do it. Like that's part of the thing. Like that's one of the cool things about it. Like I love the fact that I can identify damn near any kind of duck from 300 yards away, just, you know, in the darky or in the before shooting time, even just by the way they're flying. Like that's one of the cool things about it, and like we should encourage that kind of stuff, not like reward it almost. So I don't know, whatever. It's just me being grumpy, I guess.
Yeah, I'm sure we could probably talk another hour about splash limits and things. That could be a whole other episode.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
Jeff, Matt, we've been going for like over an hour and a half now.
All right, man.
I suppose, final questions here before we get into our little wrap up, Phil. You guys, What do you guys got?
I'm good. I got a couple Scott last, Matt.
I have nothing else.
All right. So Phil, the way we end our episodes when we have guests is we do what we call a round of Sky Blast questions. So these are off the cuff. They could be related to hunting or anything. They could be. Jeff makes up some random stuff. So who knows what he's going to actually ask?
Okay.
We'll ask the questions, and you just fire away. First thing that comes into your head is the answer. Think of like rapid fire, basically what it is. We'll wrap up on a little bit lighter note here.
Matthew,
sound good?
Sure. Yep. All right. I think I know the answer, but so mud motor or outboard?
Outboard.
What brand shotgun are you shooting, or what are you shooting typically?
Benelli.
And
an old SBE one.
Oh, nice. Is it an H&K or no?
It's not actually. I have an H&K monofiltro, but it would have been right after H&K.
Okay. And what's your favorite like taxidermy mount, assuming you have one?
God, I do. I have a few. I got some elk and a deer. It's probably I have a golden eye from kind of a cool hunt when I was younger that I like. Looks pretty cool and just it was just kind of a neat hunt that was on something that was very unique for what we'd ever shoot back then.
Sure. That's what I had.
Tyler,
you want me to go as Jeff? Okay. All right. All right, Phil. Coffee or energy drinks?
Coffee or what?
Coffee or energy drinks?
Neither. Hot chocolate.
Hot chocolate.
Yeah, I'm not a coffee drinker, and I'm not an energy drink. So you probably
that's a first.
I have a pretty good rant. I have a pretty good rant about coffee drinkers. Because all my buddies are. Yeah.
Oh boy. Okay.
Well, it isn't so much about the coffee itself. It's about all the bullshit associated with having to stop at the gas station, like when you're trying to get to the boat ramp and beat 50 other people. Dude, we got to stop for coffee at 4:15 in the morning, and so yeah, that's my coffee. But no, I'm a hot chocolate, or this is probably a first too, or tea, one or the other.
No, Tyler partakes in some tea every once in a while.
So do I.
Matt,
that's my warm drink in the blind. Yeah.
All right, there we go.
Tea is easier. Well, tea's kind of more of a pain than hot chocolate. You got to let it steep, so you got to wait a few minutes, and that I kind of follow. I don't want to be a hypocrite and like fall into my own trap, so I don't make it if I know time is critical. That's when hot chocolate you dump and go.
Couple of tea bagging SOBs in that blood duck line.
Yep. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. All right. Hot chocolate. Okay. What is your favorite snack to have in the blind?
Probably like the one I have the most is just granola bars, just because I buy like a big box of them at the beginning of the season, just go through them. Probably not like the best, but they're probably the one I have. Oh, okay. Hold on. I will change it. You guys have Casey's? You have Casey's, right?
Yeah. I do in Iowa.
Yep. Okay. So if you're ever in the donut section, they've got a donut, like in the little packaged donuts,
Mm-hmm.
They got the little ones, and it's like a creme de leche or something. It's like a tan colored donut, but it looks like a chocolate, but it's lighter colored. Those things are the freaking ticket. That's my favorite snack.
So there is an advantage to your buddies having to get their coffee in the morning. You can get yourself
yeah.
one of them.
Well, no. I buy that shit ahead of time. I got it.
Okay,
I get it the night before. I'm stocked and ready to go.
He's prepared. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't mess around in the morning. Like, I'm ready. I'm up and out, and in 15 minutes from the time my alarm goes off, I am ready to be at the boat ramp.
Nice.
All right. So we got hot chocolate and creme de leche donuts.
Yep.
In the blind. I like it.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yep.
All right. Pizza or tacos?
Ooh, stumping him.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, dang it. It's very dependent on what exact pizza and which exact tacos, but I'll say generally probably pizza.
Okay. All right. Last one. Beer or whiskey?
For sure, beer.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Excellent. I'm out of shells. Jeffrey.
All right, I'm shooting the over and under because Tyler just stole one of mine already. So.
What did I steal?
The go-to. I should never ask food ones because you always go with the food. So
I always ask
the go-to
breakfast,
breakfast in the blind. Yeah.
All right.
All right. This was a favorite of mine from a couple episodes ago, so I got to ask this one again to you: air guitar or air drums?
Man, I'm probably air. I'm both. I'm a multi-air.
Oh, you do both.
Multi-air
You're like
instrumentalist. Yeah.
You're the whole band. You're just
0% of real either, but air. I've tried to do both at the same time if I can.
Nice.
I'll hold the fret with my left hand and drum with my right, probably if I have to.
Gotta pull up next to you at the stoplight, man.
Oh, there's a lot of action going on then.
Nice. Oh, that's awesome. All right, this would be a good one to go out with. Who is a better shot, you or Art Diaz?
Oh man. I think he would know I was lying if I said he was.
Nice.
There's a couple days I've had to give him a pretty good ribbing on. So that day when I had my little stretch I told you about with the 27 or whatever.
Yeah.
You'll have to, if you talk to him ever, you'll have to ask him about one of the days during that he was with me, and his stretch was almost the opposite. That day.
Oh, that's great.
He's gonna love that. It was pretty awesome. Him on it once in a while. It was a really good hunt, and he was just slightly frustrated that day. So,
well, if he doesn't listen to this episode, I'm gonna have to make sure he at least tunes in for like the last 2 minutes.
We found it was supposedly due to a gun malfunction, but I'm not so sure about that. Normally, he is a pretty good shot, though. He's actually a pretty good shot. So.
Nice.
I think I just had a few more ducks at the end of my barrel to hone my craft a little more.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, that's it.
Cool. Thanks, guys. That was fun.
Yeah, Phil. If folks want to follow you, if they want to buy some of your prints, if they want to check you out, if they want to get in touch with you, this is your chance to plug anything you want to plug here. Definitely your social media handles, anything like that.
I'm not a very good plugger, but my Instagram is probably the best way to get a hold of me. If you don't have that, Facebook, or if you just Google my name, I think a billion different ways to get a hold of me come up, whether it's Gmail or Yahoo Mail or any of the social media stuff works too. So I'm up for chatting ducks anytime, or duck blinds or photos or whatnot. So
perfect. Excellent.
Cool.
We appreciate you jumping on here. Had a lot of fun. I learned a ton personally. So
yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, it was a blast. We'll have to have you back on sometime soon.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
Cool.
Take it easy, Phil.
Thanks, Phil.
Yeah.
Thanks.